And good afternoon, and welcome to the Pilot Lounge. Ryan Bliss, Vermont Aviators Association.
That's correct. Yep.
Have I right?
You've got that right.
Uh, tell me before I ask you all kinds of questions about this new organization that you're just putting onto the world's radar. Tell me a little bit about your aviation story. How'd you get into flying?
Sure. I'm 44 years old right now, and I got into flying when I turned 40. And the way it happened is I was working down in Waltham, Massachusetts, but living in Nashua, New Hampshire. And every afternoon or early evening when I'd come home from work, I would see all these little Cessnas and Pipers flying over Route 3 north and south, the highway right by the airport. And when I would be stuck in traffic, I'd just be watching them, just kind of thinking, oh, what a great time that would be to go, fly some planes. And I have no family or friends in aviation, so it was completely new to me. I finally, sitting in traffic one day, decided I wanted to take a lesson. So I called over to the airport and got connected with an instructor named Steve Brulette. And he took me up for an introductory flight in his Cessna 172 Mike. And as soon as we landed and came back down to the runway, I asked him if we could do this every single day. To which he replied, I do have other students, but we can go up as much as possible. And I just have been hooked ever since. And that was January of 2018. And since then, I've gotten my instrument rating, high performance and complex endorsements, my remote pilot certificate, and I've just been loving every minute of it. That's what got me started, and it's just been something that's grown in my sort of personality since taking that leap in January of 2018. That I just love everything in aviation, want to share it with everyone else and get as many people involved as possible. But that's what originally brought me into taking some lessons and getting to my private pilot certificate.
Which is a perfect segue into your passion has led you to create an association to spread that passion. Tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Last year, my wife and I moved up to the Rutland, Vermont area, and we ended up buying a hangar at the airport, and we bought an RV-10 last year as well. And so we finally, and up until that point, I'd always been a renter. And so now that we had owned a plane, we started to get to know the other base operators at Rutland Airport, and there's a bunch of really great guys there. And we started just cooking hamburgers at our hangars, just a handful of us, and that turned into a monthly cookout with everybody at the airport that we were putting on. And that turned into a conversation of, hey, it would be really fun to do something bigger at the airport, maybe certain types of events or whatnot to bring the community into the airport. And so that was in the summer of last year, and we decided to do a food truck fly-in last October just as a beta test to see if anybody would even show up. So we called a local food truck company called the Rolling Rooster, and they make an amazing fried chicken, a lot of great sandwiches and things. They're known for their fried chicken, and then we brought a Ben and Jerry's food truck in, and that was all we did, just two food trucks, and we did some basic marketing, just let the community know we're going to be having a couple of food trucks at the airport. And we ended up getting a huge turnout, way more than I expected. The food truck, the Rolling Rooster, sold a ton of chicken, did really well financially, and so it worked out really well. So then we started discussing, well, should we do bigger events, food truck festival fly-ins, and we started working on that at the end of last year, and it's just grown from just doing maybe some food truck fly-ins to these bigger events where we've got four food trucks. We've got North Country Heliflight coming to sell helicopter rides to attendees. Cape Air is going to be one of our main sponsors. They're going to raffle off airline tickets at the event to get the community more involved. Wheelan Aerospace Technologies is going to be sponsoring our events, and we've got a handful of additional sponsors. So it's turned into a bigger thing, and we also have started to create a website that we're hoping to publish in July. And that website is really meant to be like one-stop shopping for anybody interested in aviation. So we've consolidated a lot of different materials and resources onto our website, and it's all about flying clubs, aviation safety training, how to become a pilot or an aircraft mechanic or a controller, the aviation medical examiners in the state of Vermont, the flight training centers. So it's really meant to just cover everything. So everyone in Vermont that's interested, or anyone in Vermont that's interested in aviation can go to our website and find everything they could possibly need for that. So it's grown into something a little bit bigger, with our mission statement being, bringing aviation education and community together, and that's our purpose right now. And so that's how this started. It was just hamburgers at the airport with my hangar neighbor, and now we've got a 501c3 educational nonprofit and a fairly comprehensive and large website currently in development, as well as doing these events. So, but it's all so much fun. We all love it. We've got 4 directors that are all pilots. It's a mix of commercial and private, multi and single engine pilots, CFI, CFII, remote pilots. So people that just really love aviation. So it's turning into what seems and feels like a full-time job, but it's so much fun. It's so much fun for all of us that we just love doing it. So we really just want to bring the rest of the community that may not have the exposure to aviation that we've been lucky enough to have into the aviation world, and just to see it and be around it and just understand it. You don't have to be a millionaire to fly a plane. There's ways to do it that's affordable through clubs, and you might be really interested in becoming an aircraft mechanic. Why don't you come for a day and just see what that's like? I know for me, when I bought my RV10 last year, during the first condition inspection, it was an owner assisted, so I spent a lot of time learning how to work on my own plane and how to do an annual. And that was great. And I had no idea how much I loved wrenching. I had never done it before. And now I'm actually working toward my A&P with on-the-job training at the SD Air Service at Rutland Airport, which is our local shop. And I had no idea how much I would love just doing that. And so we want to bring those opportunities to the community and just get more people involved. Because one, there's a huge demand, as you know, for pilots and aircraft mechanics. But two, it's just a lot of fun. It's really a blast. And I don't think you realize how much fun it is until you actually get to try those types of activities. If you had asked me 10 years ago, would I want to be an aircraft mechanic? I would say, I have no idea. I have no experience. But after 2 days, I realized I love it and it's something I want to pursue. And so we want to give those opportunities to the residents of Vermont.
And we were talking a minute ago before we started the recording. I gather it must be from you do have a Facebook page that you just launched in the last few days. Is that what generated an inquiry from somebody who was asking about an age limit at the upcoming event?
Yeah, exactly. So we launched a Facebook page for the Vermont Aviators, and I also launched my own personal Facebook page at the same time. And we are advertising our first event on June 12th at Rutland Airport. And one of the activities at that event is going to be a 1-hour pilot workshop, which is free. Anybody can attend it. And it's going to be on maintaining wheels and brake systems for pilots. And so one of the folks on Facebook that saw that sent me an email through Facebook, or a message through Facebook that asked if there's an age limit. And I replied, there's no age limit. If they're under 18, they would just need to be supervised. But, we welcome all aspiring pilots or aircraft mechanics or controllers or whatever the case may be to come and get that experience. So her 11-year-old son is going to attend the workshop on maintaining aircraft wheels and brakes. And she calls him an aspiring pilot. But this workshop is going to expose him to aircraft mechanics too, and he may realize that that's something he loves as well, or maybe he loves both and wants to get his pilot certificate and an A&P. If nothing else, it can teach him that knowing aircraft systems as a pilot is going to do nothing but improve your safety as a pilot. So we're really excited to have a youngster come into one of those classes.
For sure, for sure. And you've got two events coming up, if I'm not mistaken. The Rutland is the second of two, or what's the? Tell me about the other one.
Correct. So our group, Vermont Aviators Association, is made up of 4 pilots. Three of us are based at Rutland, and one is based at Franklin County Airport up on the northern end of Vermont. And our first event of the season will be at Franklin County State Airport in Swanton, Vermont, and that'll be on Saturday, June 4th, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And we'll have 4 food trucks there. So we'll have barbecue, burgers, tacos, Ben & Jerry's ice cream. We'll have helicopter rides for sale from North Country Heliflight and Bruce Mowry's company. And we'll also have a raffle. Wheelan Aerospace Technologies has donated vouchers for their landing lights. They're G3 Part 36 landing lights. So we'll be raffling those off to the pilots that show up. So that'll be our first event of the season, and we're really excited for that. We think there's a lot of thirst in the communities in Vermont for events like this, and we've already got quite a bit of positive feedback for that event. So that'll be our first one, and then the second one will be June 12th at Rutland Airport. And then after that, we've got 5 more events at Rutland and 2 more events at Franklin County for the season.
I moved to Vermont myself in December of 2019, and I didn't really appreciate at the time that there is a bit there's quite an aviation community there, and there's a history of aviation. And even though it's, maybe not the state that comes up first on the list when people talk about North Carolina or Ohio or Florida or California, it is nonetheless very important in the state of Vermont, and that's partly because of the geography and the terrain. It is, in my experience, relatively easy to drive the state if you're going north south, but if you want to go east west, that's a little different story. Fill us in a little bit on that geography aspect, and I guess Northeast Kingdom is where your first event is going to be technically.
Correct. Yeah. So it'll be at Franklin County Airport, but in that area. Yeah. So you're right. I would say driving anywhere in New England, east to west, except in Massachusetts and Connecticut, anything north of that area is very difficult because we've got highways going north to south in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, but nothing otherwise. So yeah, if you want to go over to New Hampshire or Maine from Vermont or vice versa, it's pretty difficult. So but what I've found so far in Vermont, because I moved here only 1 year ago, I moved here last May, is that the love of aviation and the access to organizations and people that really love aviation in Vermont is amazing. It's a small state from a population standpoint, but there is a lot of pro aviation folks in the state that have been doing events for quite a long time. For example, in Springfield, as you know, there's the aerobatics contest in July, and that's a phenomenal event to go to. I can't wait to go to that event. I'm going to volunteer at it this summer. We've got the Quechee Hot Air Balloon Festival in the summer as well, which is a huge event. So we're trying to get our organization and our events to be sort of into that category. But as far as the community of aviators in Vermont, it's really just super welcoming. For example, I was talking to some of the folks at Burlington the other day, and I reached out to one of the controllers about doing some tours and some other things in the tower. And Ben got back to me within one day about setting that all up. Super supportive and welcoming. So that's just kind of I guess the general, I would say, culture of Vermont is incredibly welcoming, incredibly friendly, high quality everything in this state that I find, and so it's been the same way with aviation. So I feel very lucky to be up here.
So, tell me a little bit about your long-term strategy. Do you envision doing a couple events a year on the website? Is there more beyond that, or is that pretty much where you're aiming?
So at the moment, we're going to be publishing the website with the goals that we discussed earlier, and I could see that expanding though. This is where we're starting. So part of it is going to be this first year we want to test the market, for lack of a better term. We want to see what the reception is like. We want to gather feedback from the aviation community as well as the residents of Rutland and the Northeast Kingdom and Southern Vermont. And we are very open to criticism or feedback or advice or suggestions to make everything better and more customized to the Vermont residents and the Northeast pilot community. So currently at the moment, we're going to launch the website in July. And then if there are any needs, really, I would say we're maybe more of a needs-based organization. So as needs come up, we want to be able to address them to improve the aviation community as a whole and make information accessible to everybody in a very simple fashion. Go to our website. It'll be very easy to navigate, yet super comprehensive from an information standpoint. But if anything is suggested or brought to us that could help improve that, we will take that into our group and make that happen. As far as events go, we've got 9 total events planned for this year. So 6 at Rutland, 3 at Franklin. And we're working with the Vermont Transportation Agency and the FAA and the Portland FISDO to make sure we follow all the correct rules and regulations and get everything approved through the proper channels for each one of these events. So this first year will be kind of our first year to get used to going through all of that. So we're going to do these 9 events this season. And then next year, we're hoping to do more events and maybe go to more airports as well throughout Vermont, and maybe even bring different types of events to the season as well. So currently, we've got 9 food truck fly-ins where we'll have a lot of other stuff going on, such as the raffles and helicopter rides, etc. One event will be a stole competition, so that should be really fun as part of the Northeast Stole Series based out of Maine. So that'll be a really fun event. And then what we'll do at the end of the season really is just see what was the feedback, what was the response, where did we run into some hurdles maybe we didn't anticipate, as well as think about maybe doing some bigger events, for the following season, and with maybe different types of activities involved in those events. So, but for this first season, yeah, we're doing 9 fly-ins. We're getting the website up, and and that's going to get us kind of off the ground and running for this season. And then I could see this expanding quite a bit as the years go on, though.
And it sounds like you've really given a lot of thought to one of the conversations I can remember having back into the 80s when I first got involved with general aviation, which was understanding the need to make it easy for people to come into the community to understand that they can go to the airport and they can find somebody who's going to be willing to show them stuff, show them around the place where it's not, such a forbidding or unknown thing, and you're just taking that ball and running with it, it sounds like.
Yeah, I agree. I think, the aviation community, in my opinion, is the most welcoming community I've ever been involved in. And it is such a just a privilege and an honor to be involved in it. I mean, it's an accomplishment when you become a pilot, but once you open the door into that aviation community and in the industry, it's just you realize how great it is. And personally, I want everyone else to experience that as well. I started doing this at 40. I really wished I was, started that process at 10 years old, because that would have been a lot more time enjoying the aviation industry. So I'd like to have a lot more people, whether they're children, adults, whatever age, get involved in this. And so that's really our goal and what we want to accomplish through the organization. But as far as what we do going forward, there's so many opportunities to grow this in the state of Vermont. We're really looking forward to it.
Well, I'm looking forward to coming to your Rutland event, because that's just an hour up the road
Yeah,
for me, which by Vermont standards is a very short drive.
yeah.
And also looking forward to flying with you, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. Come up anytime. And this is kind of exactly what the aviation community brings. And just for example, when my wife and I moved up here last May, we had to hire a number of local businesses to help us, like movers and different things. And all of the folks that I met were super nice. I invited all of them up to the airport, to the hangar. Every time I see them, I'm like, hey, if you ever want a flight anywhere, just let me know. If you want to come hang out at the airport and just cook burgers and hot dogs with us and just get a lawn chair and hang out as well. We've constantly extended that to a lot of folks, and they take you up because they say, "Oh, I didn't know you could just hang out at the airport and cook a hamburger and just sit there in a chair and watch planes come and go." And I said, "We do that all the time, after work and on the weekends. If we're flying, we're flying, but if not, we're trying to just hang out and have a good time and enjoy the airport as well." So we want to bring as many people into that community as possible. And currently, the feedback that we've gotten through Facebook and our marketing activities for that first event in Franklin and the first event in Rutland has been tremendous. So I think there's really a huge thirst for it. So we're really happy to be able to take something like this to residents that are really receptive to it as well.
And I got to give a quick kudos on the graphic design. I love the logo. Is that you, or who's got the graphic design expertise in the
Yeah,
group?
no, I completely agree. Our graphic design team is incredibly talented. So that's their company is called 12 Point Creative, and they're based out of Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. And Chad is the CEO and head of that company, Chad Klamaski, and he's a great guy. He's 90% a pilot. So he said when he was a teenager, he was just about to do his solo, and he said his car completely broke down on the way to the airport. The engine seized, it was just a whole thing. And when he was 17 or 18, he was pretty young, I think, and he just couldn't do the solo. And then life, sort of got a hold of him, and he ended up doing a lot of other things very successfully. So he loves aviation, but he's an incredibly talented graphic designer. His web architect, Dave Mandel, is amazing at building out the website. And Chad's other designer, KJ, is also super talented. So they actually built my company's website when I was living in South Carolina, and I was so impressed with their skills, talent, friendliness, timeliness that we wanted to bring them on to Vermont Aviators Association to do our logos and marketing materials as well. So they do a great job.
Eh, That's great. And so you're keeping the day job for now. It sounds like.
Trying to. So my company, so I do drone inspections. So mostly industrial or commercial solar plant inspections, and I'm trying to keep that going. And but as I said, this Vermont Aviators thing has been growing quite a bit too. And I was talking to one of the directors, Josh, the other day, and I said, I get up at 7 with the goal of getting all the Vermont Aviators. I get into the office at 7 with the goal of getting all the Vermont Aviator stuff done by 10 or 11. Next thing I know, it's 3 or 4, and I'm still working on everything. So, but yeah, so I've got both going at the moment, and hopefully can keep that going.
Well, good luck with that. And yeah. Any closing thoughts? I mean, I'm looking forward to some food trucks and seeing you in person in a few weeks.
Yeah, no, I would just say that anyone that's not been to Vermont, as you know, if you haven't been to Vermont, just come here. It is the most amazing state. The food, the people, the communities, the airports, everyone flying at the airports, they're just amazing people, and it's just a great place to be. I grew up on Cape Cod in Massachusetts, and so we typically vacation in New Hampshire, and we didn't really go to Vermont. So I kind of discovered Vermont late, but better late than never, because it's just an amazing place to come and enjoy. And specifically at Rutland Airport, it's just such a beautiful airport. It's got a 5,300-foot runway, so anybody can land there. It's got almost a 360-degree view of beautiful green mountains. It's a really almost like a magical place. It really is that nice.
Well, I will second that on Rutland and look forward to seeing you. And I thank you for spending some time in the pilot lounge with us, Ryan Bliss, Vermont Aviators Association.
Well, thank you for having me, Jim. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.